Goodness. Let's go. All right, here we are. So hey everyone, I hope everyone is doing well who is either live on the stream with us right now, or if this is a recording, then hope you're doing well during that time. Today's Tuesday, August the 10th, and it's noontime here in Colorado. And what we're going to do today is work with Animate. So I've got a bunch of small projects I need to sort of just churn through using Animate for a project or for a client. So I am going to make use of this stream and this time in order to kind of hash stuff out, because it gives me a chance to use Animate again. So we haven't used Animate in a while. But I did do sort of an impromptu stream, which was kind of a part one of this on, I don't know when it was, maybe Friday or something like that. This is my new time. So last week I stayed up quite late for my nighttime stream. It was midnight Eastern time, which is 10 o'clock at night my time. But it was still, it was pretty rough. So I switched it back to the daytime. So here we go. So the first thing I'm gonna actually start going through and creating here is a 3D portrait. So animating a 3D portrait inside of Animate. And for this, you just need to grab a headshot or a picture of your cat or your dog or something to do this with. So I've got portrait I'm bringing in here. You can see it's pretty big, so this is a self portrait. I am going to actually go down and, I don't know, make it like 300 pixels high. And yeah, that works pretty good. So there we go. And we can always put this in the center of the stage here, just by using the align panel and aligning to stage. So there's that, but we can also, of course, change the stage color. So I could sample from there if I wanted to. And that's how we can start our little 3D portrait here. So let's go ahead and have a look on the side, because we're going to need 3D tools to do this. Now, you can only use the 3D tools inside of Animate if you are using any of the ActionScript 3 base document types. So if you were doing something inside of HTML5 Canvas, WebGL, stuff like that, you actually can't use the tools that we're doing today, but that's just fine because of course you can output this as a GIF or an MOV or anything like that. So what I'm gonna do is actually edit my toolbar. You can see we got the 3 dots here, the little ellipse. I'm gonna find those 3D tools, and here they are. So we have our 3D rotation tool, and we have our 3D translation tool. I'm gonna grab, come here, grab him, and grab this guy here and group them together. And actually I'm gonna group my asset warp tool with my bone tool as well. And from last time, we've got all of our brushes here grouped together too. So it's nice to be able to edit your toolbar now. It's not something that you're able to do much before, right? So let's go ahead and actually grab our selection tool here. Now, to use any of these 3D tools, so the rotation tool or the translation tool, I can select my object with the tool, right? But because it's a bitmap symbol instance, I can't actually do anything to it. So if we look in our library here, we can see there's portrait.jpg, and it's just a bitmap. So what we need to do is select this and convert it into a symbol. So I'm going to click convert to symbol here, and we can give it a name. I'm just going to call it portrait. And we want this to be a movie clip symbol because that's kind of how the 3D tooling, what it expects to work with. It needs to work with a movie clip symbol when it does this. So let's go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to keep the registration point at the very center of the symbol as well. And there we go. You can see immediately what we get is we've got our portrait now, and it's got like these weird little kind of like per axis set of controls over it. And if I hover over, you can see the red one here is for X, the green is for our Y, and the blue is for Z. And then yeah, so if we look over here too, we can see this is no longer a bitmap instance. It's now a movie clip symbol instance of portrait. And inside of our library here, we now have both the portrait JPEG and a portrait movie clip symbol. Perfect. All right. So what we're going to do is create a motion tween. So there's a couple of ways to do that. One of the easiest ways is to just kind of right click on a movie clip symbol on the stage and say create motion tween. It's that easy, and it injects 1 second's worth of frames in your timeline. And you can see by the symbol here, it's also created this as a motion layer. So motion tweens exist within motion layers, which is a bit different from the other tween types. That is shape tween and classic tween. I'm going to rename this layer too. 3D motion. Oh, didn't like those special characters. Oh, because I started it with a, yeah, I'll just call it, I don't know. It's like we could call it portrait again, but I've already used that name like a couple times to describe the portrait itself. 3D. There we go. Very good. Let's see what that ding ding was all about. That's bad news. Okay. So, let's see here. What we're going to do, we've got our motion tween. So really all we need to do is just make changes along the timeline to have this motion tween actually work. So let's pull this over and I don't know. Let's just start here. So I still have my 3D rotation tool. And what I can do is I can make adjustments to how this works. Now the 3D using these tools is you know, it's the sort of 3D that you see. I don't know, it's kind of similar to the 3D in After Effects, right? So if you're used to After Effects, you know that using 3D in After Effects, you have like basically just like different planes, and then you're able to just rotate along these different axes to change how they appear. So here's my Z rotation there. So what we're gonna do is just make some changes here. And, ooh, I didn't mean to flip it. Let's try that again. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, sometimes these tools just don't really want to work for whatever reason. Let's go ahead and move this guy over. And I'll shift it over here. So we're gonna have it kind of fly in and give it some rotation as it does that, right? So just like this. That's a little better. Okay, so let's take that and put it off screen. So the portrait is going to kind of fly in like that. That's really silly. I should have used a picture of my cat instead of myself for this. But oh well. And of course we could change other things too, like perhaps we want to I wonder why it's flipping so many times. I suppose that's okay. Then when it comes in, let's see, we could put a little piece of text, right? Let's go black and white here. Use my text tool and create a new layer. Message. And insert a keyframe right there, and that's where this text is going to live. I'm going to make Joseph say hi. Take the size down a bit because that's quite large. We don't want to use times. That's ugly. I want something that looks a little kind of cartoony, maybe. I'm trying to make this fun, right? Let's use Blockhead. That's a fun typeface, and I actually use that for some of the things I do on this stream, right? We'll use our free transform tool to rotate this. And actually, we could insert a keyframe here and create another motion tween. Well, we didn't need to insert the keyframe. It doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna remove it. Create another motion tween. And let's right click and say insert keyframe all. And then over here, I'm just gonna kind of go like that. So the portrait comes in, and then at the end, it's like hi. All right. So that's perfect. It's just a small little thing. So what would you use this for? You would use this as a simple exercise to test if somebody can effectively use the 3D tools, right? To actually do 3D transformations inside of Animate. If they can use motion tweens, if they can work with motion layers, if they can work with text, and if they can kind of animate all that stuff, right? So let's move on to the next one. And last time I got through 2 of these. So in part 1 of this little series, I got through 2 of these little exercises. So maybe we'll get that again. We shall see. And this one, if I can find my notes, there they are. So for this one's all about filters, opacity, and blend modes. So let's go ahead and first of all make the stage a more interesting color. Make it that blue. And what I will do, let's create just a rectangle here. Check my view settings. All right, my snap is all on. I do this all the time, especially if I'm creating stuff that needs to extend the entire width or height of the stage. I like to make sure all my snapping options are on, because then it makes it really easy to do something like that. Oh, this is a drawing object. So we'll turn off the stroke and fill color. So I don't have a real good idea of exactly what I want to do with this particular one here. I just want to make it look kind of... We're basically just adding a bunch of effects onto this, right? So there is that. And yeah, so let's create some more shapes. And because we are using drawing objects, they're not going to collide with one another, right? Let's use the polystar tool and create a star. I almost never use the polystar tool to make a polygon, but I oftentimes use it to actually make a star. So let's go ahead and make a star right there. In this star, we want a different color. And yeah. Also, I'm gonna use my pen tool. Perfect. Could fill that in with my paint bucket tool. Oops. I don't want to change the color of that. Change that stroke. Okay, so we've got all this stuff. I'm gonna select each one of these. Well, yeah, let's separate them all. We're gonna right click and distribute them all to individual layers. So now they all exist on their own little layers. So this is gonna be angle. This is probably my star. Yep, there's my star. And this one here is just my rectangle. So I'm gonna call that rect. And let's see. I'm going to take each one of these drawing objects and convert them to symbols. So, an angle, star, rectangle. All right. So let us see here. So like I said, there's kind of 2 things we're looking at here. One of those is, and if you're using movie clip symbols, you can see that movie clip symbols have a ton more properties, right? Drawing objects don't have a whole lot. Movie clip symbols do. So probably the first thing I want to do is change the blend mode of this angular pink object here. And there's a number of different blend modes, and they do depend upon kind of the document type you're working with. So dealing with an AS3 document type like I am here, I'm able to actually use any of the blend modes that exist inside of Animate. If I was working with HTML5 Canvas or something else, then I'd be more limited. Although it is getting better. Still, there we go, there's hard light. So they're very similar to the blend modes you find in other Adobe applications, right? But there's multiply. I think that one's pretty good for what we're doing here. Let's put the multiply on there. I'm going to choose my star, and I want to add a filter to my star. So not only do we have blend modes, but we also have filters. So I'm going to add a filter. I want a blur. Well, should I do blur or glow? Let's do blur. And I want this quality at high. But I don't want to blur it out that much. That's a little mad. And I can also put a blend mode on there, right? Subtract, add, hard light. I don't want hard light. Overlay is pretty cool. So what I'm trying to do here is create some sort of squishy effects, right? I want these effects to look like blurry things. So even though I'm starting off with these things being very sharp and very well defined, you know, I want them to just sort of appear as like these shifting colors, like sort of like almost like watercolors or like some kind of oil wash or something like that. So these filters and blend modes can help me achieve that sort of thing. And I see there's a message in the chat. So Derek asks, hello Derek, can you draw in Animate? It's possible to draw in Animate, absolutely. I don't tend to like draw in Animate necessarily. Most of what I do is import things into Animate, like bitmap images. You can import stuff from Illustrator, from Photoshop, whatever. And then use Animate to animate that stuff in some way. There are plenty of people though, especially character animators, who draw just crazy stuff inside of Animate, freehand, right, with like a pen and stylus. Somebody great to follow for a lot of that stuff is Chris Georginas. So he's somewhat active on Behance as well. So go ahead and look for him. He usually goes by the moniker Keyframer. And let me see if I can find his Behance profile here. I'll try to look for that. Let's see. But there are certainly plenty of other people. There he is. Okay, I'm going to share this in the chat. So definitely give Chris a follow if you want more stuff around Animate and stuff that kind of differs a bit from a lot of the stuff that I do. You can also follow Matthias I'm going to butcher his name, Klesner. And he is also an Adobe Education leader like myself. And he does a lot of stuff with Animate too. And actually he just tweeted this morning thinking about starting a new set of tutorials around Animate. So yeah. One of the nice things about Animate is that, you know, everybody's got their own little thing around it, you know. Everybody uses it differently for different purposes. Oh, I didn't want a glow filter, so I'm gonna trash that. I want to blur once again. And yeah, I mean, it's always really interesting to see how people use things differently, right? Even if it's the same product, like how are people using this thing? How does it differ from how I use it? Things like that. All right, so you can see here with those different blend modes and blur filters and things like that, I can actually achieve some pretty cool stuff. And what I'm going to do is select everything on my stage here, right click, and I'm going to once again create motion tweens. Puts in that 1 second of animation. And of course we could extend that out. So if I go out to frame 40 here, I can insert frames up to frame 40, and then I've got almost 2 seconds of animation. Well, no animation yet per se, because you can see nothing's actually happening. But yeah, what I want to do is actually change the positioning, the blend modes, all the different bits and pieces around these things. So, I can move this stuff around somewhere over here. Let's actually use a free transform tool to do some free transform on that. So even with just that done there, yeah, so that's the kind of look that I'm going for with these things. So question from Derek, when you change the blend modes of an object, does it animate or change when set on a different key? That's a good question. I don't think so. I think you have to kind of stick with one, but let's find out. So here, I've got my, let's lock that down. So here I've got my star, and it's using overlay. So if I go to frame 40 here, and I go to my object properties, and I change it to hard light, it changes it, but yeah, see, it changes it for the whole layer. So you can't like really switch blend modes out. But when you do set them, so it's not something that's keyframeable. And actually you can tell what things are keyframeable and what aren't. On a motion tween especially, if you right click on the motion tween and you've got this insert keyframe thing, and earlier in the last project I inserted keyframe for all, but you can see here filters can be, right? So filters can be changed, color can be changed, rotation, skew, scale, position, but you don't see blend mode here, right? So that's a good indicator that blend mode isn't something you can change in a tween. All right, so let's do some other things here. I want to start off with the star really big maybe, because I'm making that more angular thing pretty large. Let's start off with the star larger. I'm going to rotate this with my free transform tool, and then go down here, and let's make some changes. So rotate it back this way. Yeah. So one thing, especially when you use like a lot of filters like this, it can slow Animate down a little bit. But if you hit test movie up here, it's oftentimes much quicker. Well, that isn't. But yeah. The more effects you pile onto this stuff, the slower it's going to be, just like any piece of software. So yeah. Yeah, man, I wasn't excited about this one when I first started, when I got this idea, but this is actually a pretty cool project. I can see a lot of potential for it when people are messing with stuff like this. Let's go over here, and I think what I'm going to do is just kind of make this, let's go 75%. Just shift that guy like this. Wow, that blows it out. I don't know if I want to go that yellow, but what else do I need to hit here? Let me reference my project notes for this one. So filters, blend modes, pretty good, whatever. So eventually, you know, what'll happen, you know, playing it back in real time like this is, it's not as, what am I trying to say? it's slow, it's staggered, right? If you go to match FPS in the timeline, that might help. Let's see if that helps things. A little bit. It helps it a little bit. Let's add a tint to this rectangle too. So that's under color effects, tint. And in this way, you can choose a color and add a tint. So if I wanted to veer this back towards a nice blue, then there we go. So now, and I think what I'll do as well is on the star, let's go ahead and blur this out over here even more. Oops, not there. Here. If you don't mind. So 38. Whoa. 95. Then over here we've got 95 again, but I can bring that down, right? If I wanted to have it be a complete star again, I could do that. But I want to make it something like this. And is overlay the right? I don't know if I like overlay so much for this. Screen. Lighten. Lighten makes it disappear, so that's not that great. Difference is nice. Let's lock it all down and yeah, that's pretty cool. Yes, like I was saying, I wasn't quite sure when we were going through here initially if this was going to be an interesting project or if it was just going to be a stupid idea. But I kind of really like how it came out. And you can see it's rendering very, very slowly. But if we were to render this as a movie, so a video file, then it of course would be perfect. It would be nice and smooth, exactly what we would want to see inside of here. So cool. Well, you know what? I think that is probably pretty good for today. I'm happy with that. The last one too. For those who just popped in, we did some other stuff over here with 3D layers. So there's that one. It just kind of swings in 3D. And by 3D, again, inside of Animate, you know, it's like postcards in space kind of deal, where they just kind of flip around. But pretty fun. And then we've got this kind of psychedelic, shape-shifting thing right here, which is also pretty neat. All right. Well, it's a busy day, and I've got some emails to look through from my university's pandemic response office, of all things. So, yeah. Unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to have to teach while wearing a face covering again, at least temporarily until this Delta thing goes down. But hopefully that doesn't last very long and everything gets back to normal. That's unfortunate. I was really looking forward to teaching without a damn mask on anymore, but whatever. All right. I was going to do one or two more, but I'm a little bummed out by this, so I'm just going to stop the stream. Sorry, everybody. All right, so let's see. Actually, I like to always mention where you can find my schedule, because I do keep a schedule. And come here, Chrome. There we go. So here is what's going on right now. It's showing the live stream, and if we go to work here, which is what it normally goes to when you jump in, you'll find this, and this will always be right up top. And if you click on it, it's gonna give you the schedule. So this is what we're doing today. Animate Small Projects Workshop Part 2. If we make it to August 17th before I'm finished these, then we'll do a Part 3. If not, I'll bump the subtle particle generation up. I got a couple of these that are just placeholders, TBA, in case anything comes up, or I just feel like working on something else. Like I haven't done anything in fresco in a while, and I kind of miss it. So I might do something like that, or more small well, that's not going to work out according to the timing. But anyway, we'll see what happens. This shifts all the time, and I do edit it whenever it does change. So you can always look for that. It's just right here. And yeah. So anyway, thanks everyone for joining today. Thanks, Derek, for your questions. I always like to be engaged with anybody who's on the stream. And yeah, I'm going to do some more Animate. I don't know. For these small project things, like I just jump on every once in a while. So I might just jump on in a couple days and crank out a few more of these. You can see I've got 6, and I got a couple up here that are, ready to go whenever. So, yeah. All right. Bye, everyone. Talk to you all later. Thanks again for popping in.